your mistakes are not really mistakes. We understand what you may mean and the experience that you are referring to when you say, all right, I made a mistake. I made an error. Something happened that wasn't exactly the way I expected it to be. And of course, we always say when that happens, congratulations. For you have taken an unexpected turn in a direction that can actually be of great benefit to you. But more specifically, the idea here is to redefine the concept, because we also know that many of you, when you experience what you call a mistake, get very down on yourselves, start to worry that you're doing something wrong, heap judgment negatively upon yourself, think less of yourself, think that you should be doing something differently, think that you should be operating in a better way. And while, of course, again, we understand that there can always be improvement, there can always be change, there can always be refinement, there can always be more and more manifestation of what you prefer. Nevertheless, since sometimes it works best for some people on your planet to experience the darkness, which allows them to see the light more easily, the concept of experiencing a mistake can also be used that way. And we would strongly encourage you to do so, so that you can always reap a benefit from an unexpected outcome, even if that unexpected outcome is something that appears to be something you don't prefer. What we would like to suggest, what we would like to encourage you to do whenever you have the experience that you call a mistake, is not to rush past it, not to simply ignore it, not turn away from it, but to examine it more closely, to open your curiosity as to why something happened the way that it did. By opening up in curiosity and exploring the concept of what you previously termed to be a mistake, you may gain great insight into yourself, into your definitions and beliefs, into your processes. You may shed a light, you may illuminate more of how your personality is structured, and this can give you great advantage, great perspective on how to redefine yourself. Of course, also, as many of you know, the concept of a mistake can also in a positive way be used simply as a refinement process. You know that many great inventors on your planet found that they did not invent the thing they were attempting to invent hundreds, thousands of times before they finally invented it. Those that allowed themselves to remain in the state of being that is exemplified by curiosity and fascination and imagination understood that the benefit of finding ways in which the invention did not work was also a positive thing, because it brought them one step closer to understanding by examining their mistakes. You all know and have heard the phrase, learning from your mistakes. And in that sense, you know it can be a positive endeavor, a positive process. But the idea also is to not just think that it's only for you. Because as you, like any explorer, walk a path that may never have been walked before, and find things that may not necessarily be to your preference, nevertheless, by examining them, by opening your curiosity to them and exploring them, you're not only refining the process for yourself, you are refining the process for others as well. Every time you go down a path where something doesn't work in the way that you expected it to, you are charting a course for others so that they don't necessarily have to walk that path as well. The idea of finding out that something doesn't work the way you thought it would saves other people a lot of time, because now they know it won't necessarily work that way for them as well. And so you are being of benefit to the larger community, to the mass consensus, in being willing to explore things that may not necessarily be the most efficient path for someone else to take. And so you have acted as a pioneer. You have explored uncharted territories. You have gone into what you call terra incognita. Be careful, there be dragons here. And so you have cleared the path, shown the way, and allowed yourself, by attempting to go down different paths and different branches that ended in what you might refer to as a dead end, have shown the path that does lead to more understanding, to more experience, to more awareness. You have refined and made more efficient the journey and the process of others in discovering these things you call mistakes. There is no reason to heap negative judgment upon yourselves whatsoever in the experience of this. And if you are willing to pause when something happens that you call a mistake and stay with it, play with it, again, open your curiosity to it and say, why do I suppose this happened this way? What is here that could be revealed to me that I might otherwise not have discovered about myself, about my process, about my thoughts, my behaviors, my feelings, my beliefs? Let me sit with this. Let me ponder. For this is also just as exciting as the thing I thought I was exploring. For this is unexpected. And this opens up a new door, a new realm I didn't know existed. Let me walk through it. Let me stay for a while. Let me see what I can extract and glean from this experience. You may be very surprised to find that it actually will reveal to you things that will benefit you later down the road that you may have thought, well, this doesn't belong. I don't know why I found this. I don't know why this happened. This doesn't seem to have anything at all to do with what I chose to do. But you may find later that what seemed at first to be a mistaken experience will actually give you something you needed farther down the road than you can see from where you are right now. Because you can hearken back and go, ah, yes, that thing I learned by going down that path that led to a mistake now comes into play in a different way, from a different level, on a different perspective, from a broader point of view, and now I can see why that wasn't a mistake at all, but something I didn't know I needed to pick up along the way. Something I needed to know about myself that now allows me, now that I have arrived where I thought I might wind up, it allows me more appreciation and more ability to experience what it is I am experiencing now. And therefore I see the whole pattern, the whole idea from a holistic point of view. And I don't have to assume that what I experienced before as a mistake was an interruption, was an obstacle, was anything that had nothing at all to do with my path, but was really part of the learning process, the process of learning more and more about who and what I am, which is the whole point. For as we have said, the process is the point. The journey is the destination. And in that way, there are no mistakes. Everything that happens, even what might seem at the moment to be a mistake, is part of that journey and is valid for what it is and teaches you something if you're willing just to sit with it for a while, just to be curious about what it is and what it has to tell you, what it has to reflect to you. Now, in another interpretation of the idea of mistaken identity, most of you think you know who you are. You don't. Not really. This is what you're discovering on this path, in this process, on this journey. You are discovering who you are, but you don't really fully know who you are yet. And as you move forward and absorb every single reflection, every single lesson, every single experience, you add to the knowledge, you add to the understanding, you add to the vision of who it is you actually are. Because by having fragmented yourself, so to speak, you are taking this journey to gather yourself back together. You are walking down a path with this basket on your arm, and here and there you pick up the pieces of yourself and put them in the basket, and by the end of the journey you have all the pieces you need to reassemble yourself and understand who it is that truly began this journey, but began it from a position of forgetting who you are. And now you have recollected yourself along the way, remembered yourself along the way to know who you really are. Please recall that while you may from time to time define the idea of channeling as something that you do only in moments when you are operating at your peak, when you're in alignment with the thing you love to do, when you're operating on that frequency in alignment with your true self. And while that is nonetheless true, I let you in on a little secret now. You're channeling all the time. Why? Because your personality, what you think yourself to be, is artificial. It's a projection. You're channeling the personality you think you are, because it's coming from your higher being, and it's being projected into the concept of a limited physical reality, and as such, the person you think yourself to be is a channeled entity. So you are, in a sense, walking through life as no one in particular, learning who you can express yourself to be, that is perhaps more and more and more and more representative of who you actually are on a bigger level, on a greater level, from a higher point of view. So you're all channels. Every single person on your planet is channeling their personality through from a higher source. Now, when we say it's an artificial construct, we do not in any way, shape, or form mean to demean it, but it is simply that when you think of yourself as this personality as you go through life, that's a mistaken identity. It's not really, totally who you are. It's a reflective piece, it's a symbol, it's a representation of an idea, of a concept, of a theme that the greater you is exploring through this device you call a personality, this channeled projection, this symbol, this reflection, this representation of this theme. You are, as a person, an exploration of a theme from a particular perspective. So you are all being channeled all the time from the higher you, the higher version of you. This will dovetail into the idea that we will explore tomorrow of your time, representing the oversoul point of view. We will connect this idea of your channeled personalities to the idea of how the oversoul experiences itself in this way, and how you can, by connecting a little bit more deeply into the understanding that you are, as a person, simply a channeled entity, how you can use that to accelerate and amplify and magnify your journey in life by learning not only to view yourself from the individuated identity you think yourselves to be, but also from the oversoul point of view and perspective of what it means to be an individual soul, an individual personality. But you are quite ephemeral. You are quite a bunch of shapeshifters. You are always changing, always morphing, as you say, into a different person, moment to moment to moment to moment. Because if your personality, if you as a person was actually truly a solid thing, you wouldn't be able to change. It has to be a smokescreen, an idea, in a sense, truly insubstantial. And thus it gives you the opportunity to express yourself in any number of ways, to create the experience of space and time and continuity and change, and discover yourself from a new point of view over and over and over and over again. If you really were a solid entity, this wouldn't be possible. You are the projection of light upon a movie screen. You are a character in a play. You are an idea, a beautiful idea, but an idea of your greater self. You are a dream that is being dreamed by all that is, and you are also the dreamer, for you are all that is, in all the ways that you can be. But as you now walk through life, do not mistake the idea of your personality as the only thing that is you. For though it may seem to be consistent, it is not. That is your illusion. You are far more malleable and flexible and changeable than you may think. And now is the time for you to open up your identity in such a way so as to not make the mistake that you are more solid than you actually are, that you are unchangeable, and that continuity doesn't have to seem to be as fixed as you have thought it to be in the past, and that your past and future are all here now, and you can exemplify, you can take on the clothing of the different identities that are all still representative of the greater you, the greater identity, of which this identity is a part. But you can begin to think of yourselves in a much bigger way by knowing how ephemeral this identity of your personality truly is. So now as you go through life, open up to the greater identity. Does that make sense to you? All right. Do you allow yourselves, when we tell you that you are channeling your personalities, to start to feel a little bit different about who you think you are? Because the real you is the person behind the curtain. Your body is just a curtain. And it is not your identity. It is a piece of it, but it is not your identity. To believe so would be a mistake. But it has served you. It has brought you to this point where you can pull back the curtain and reveal more of yourself to yourself, and oh, what a shock you will find. How brilliant, how limitless, how beautiful, how amazing, how creative, how imaginative, how powerful is that being behind the curtain who has created the curtain, who has created the illusion, who has created the smokescreen, who has created this identity, who has channeled this personality in order to explore a realm of consciousness within the greater consciousness that you are. For remember, there is no outside. Everything you experience is taking place within the greater consciousness that you are, including this concept you call a body. Your consciousness is not in your body. Your body is in your consciousness. It is a projection of light, an illusion of reflection. Smoke and mirrors is what you are. So, blow yourselves away and see what actually reflects back to you in the mirror of creation.